Hello friends, today we start with Its Majesty Rave. In 1989, across the UK, there are massive and uncontrolled parties in huge warehouses, hangars, and open fields, held to the sounds of acid house, techno, and later other resulting electronic genres. Our main character, young Liam Howlett, goes to one of these parties and becomes permanently infected with the rave culture. He has been interested in hip-hop for a long time, danced breakdance, and was a DJ in the band Cut to Kill, but now his heart belongs to new music. In the legendary club The Barn, where Liam later worked as a DJ, a modest long-haired guy named Keith Flint was a regular. As Flint said, he had never danced before, even at wedding parties. But at those raves, he felt complete freedom, which he could not help but like.
Sort of dancing around and having a laugh.
Keith learned to dance from his new friend Leroy Thornhill. Keith regularly visited Leroy. The latter would put on some records and start. Go left, right, turn around, and then they would go to test it all out at raves. However, Leroy has never been a professional dancer. He just loved shuffle and James Brown very much. One morning, in a half-empty club, Keith and Leroy approached Liam. "Buddy, you played awesome music last week. Can you record it for us on tape?" Liam recorded the mix on one side and his own tracks on the other. On this tape, he scribbled the word Prodigy, the nickname and pseudonym of Liam Howlett, which he borrowed from the model name of his first synthesizer, Moog Prodigy. After some time, Keith and Leroy will offer Liam to perform with him on the same stage, and the friend of Keith, Sharky, will join them. During the first performance, one of the audience will climb onto the stage, take the microphone, and start freestyling. This guy's name was Keith Palmer, but all Prodigy fans know him as Maxim Reality. It was the beginning of the Prodigy band. Yes, there were 5 of them at first: Liam Howlett, who wrote all the music, 3 dancers, among whom was a girl, and an MC. It wasn't just a DJ with backup dancing, but a band that rocked the crowd at raves like rock bands. They had no idea what would come of all this, but they felt they had to try. At least it was a lot of fun. What they did, and most importantly how, find out in today's video about these legends. Don't forget to check your subscription to our channel, friends, and let's start. While they raved at parties, becoming more popular, the independent label XL released the material from the tape Liam earlier gave to Flint. Years later, this label will introduce Adele to the world and release recordings by Damon Albarn, Radiohead, The White Stripes, and many others. But at that time, the sale of the debut mini-album What Evil Lurks from an unknown rave project Prodigy with 7,000 copies was an incredible success. Their recordings began to sound from other DJs at all the raves, and the band went on a tour, playing in clubs in the UK and Italy. Yes, the rave virus already spread across Europe in the early 90s. Feeling everything was getting too serious with these tours and exhausting performances, Sharky, who just wanted to enjoy her favorite music and nothing more, left the band. And so the legendary quartet, which will dominate the world stage very soon, was formed. The first step to the world stage was the single Charlie, and with this single, the Prodigy made a lot of noise. Firstly, it reached the 3rd place on the UK chart. It was an unprecedented result that made labels pay attention to rave music right away. Secondly, in many ways, the track became popular thanks to Liam's great find. Breakbeat hardcore, to which this record can be attributed, was already popular at rave parties everywhere, but Liam came across some cartoon social advertising from 1973.
He says I better tell Mum where I'm going.
Honestly, it looks peculiar even without music. In the ad, Charlie the cat, through his little master, informs the children that they must always warn their mothers when they go somewhere.
Always tell your mummy before you go somewhere.
And so it happened that this finding elevated the music of raves to the mainstream pop chart and was supposed to make it more popular, but it only got worse. This song gave rise to many imitators.
Rhubarb and custard let fly with their secret weapon.
This genre even got called toy techno or children's rave, and Mixmag magazine accused Prodigy of killing the rave altogether. But Liam, and I say his name because all the other band members worked only on stage, didn't care much, and the Prodigy continued to release single after single. Next is Everybody in the Place, and this is the second place on the chart. Moreover, if Queen hadn't reissued their Rhapsody at that moment, this song would have reached first place. And their third single with 2 tracks at once, Fire and Jericho, reached first place on the top 40 chart. Such success with the first 3 singles meant only one thing. This was not just a project for noisy parties, they were real stars. The Prodigy successfully released their debut album and began their great journey. From local parties to the global music industry. By the time of their second album's release, the raves in the UK, in their original underground and true form, had completely disappeared, and the fault of Prodigy, assumed by critics, was rather purely symbolic. The Law on Public Order, published in 1994, noticeably toughened penalties for such parties and dealt a huge blow to the entire culture. Rave was dead. Everyone had to admit it. And for the band to exist, they had to reach a new level, moving away from the canons of the fading culture. Music for the Abandoned Generation is a new stage of their creativity, and today it is a cult favorite album in the history of electronic music, something that completely pulled them out of the underground. In those days, Liam, still the only creator of Prodigy music, became very interested in rock and industrial in his home studio. What inspired him then? Well, friends, this is far from the first video on the channel dedicated to electronic music, and in many ways, all these long conversations about samples and synthesizers were just so that it would be more interesting for you to watch today's video about the Prodigy band. Why? Well, because Prodigy's music is made from pieces of other people's records so much that you can't even imagine. But hold in mind that I will analyze all of today's examples on a computer released in 2021 with advanced software. In the early 90s, the only things Liam Howlett had at his disposal were his favorite sampler, Roland W30 synthesizer, and 909 drum machine.
Techno's enabled hundreds of teenagers up and down the country to make records.
Yes, Liam made his first recordings with their help, and even when the band became popular and had access to expensive studios, he still used his old beloved Roland. Okay, let's get down to business and start with Nirvana. Very Ape, a song from the last album, In Utero. How could it be useful to Liam Howlett? We'll see in the intro. Okay, not in this intro, in the intro earlier. As usual on the Longplay channel, I will take this piece to my sampler, and what do we get? As you probably guessed, we are talking about the song Voodoo People. Yes, Liam did the intro with the help of Kurt Cobain's riff. However, for the sake of authenticity, I will say that it got altered in the studio in the end. Perhaps there were problems with copyright. Nevertheless, the intro of Voodoo People came from the intro by Nirvana. And let's continue. Who should tell us the precious phrase? And here, the project called The Last Poets comes to the rescue. It's a band of poets rather than musicians. One can say the band of rappers who, back in the 70s, read their poems to musical accompaniment. It sounded something like this.
3rd, 124th, 7th Avenue, there's a place they call...
These long and practical sermons for the civil rights of black people and so on. By the way, this particular record, called Shalimar, may sound familiar, for example, to fans of Dr. Dre.
Like we always do about this time. Like we always do about this time.
Yeah. But we're not talking about him today. We are interested in those precious phrases, which, of course, are also hidden here.
Kind of way become ultra hit. The voodoo, hoodoo, what you don't dare do, people. The voodoo, hoodoo, what you don't dare do, people.
Once again, it's 1971. Poet, playwright Gillen Kane and his poetic band, The Last Poets.
Well, you know, black people, colored people, magic people, voodoo people, ultra people. Magic people, voodoo people.
Now we turn to Johnny Pate. Johnny Pate was once a bass guitarist player, later an arranger, and a big star of Chicago soul. He's probably a musician of Quincy Jones's level, just not as popular. Great music, but we won't listen to it for long. We will, of course, go straight to the intro. The intro of this song sounds something like this. Well, this guitar doesn't say anything to us. Let's see what we have next. This sounds familiar. Let's take this beautiful piece and raise its pitch level. It is the very beginning of the video, and I won't load you with all this much yet, but we will stop at one more quite interesting sample.
You need cool air, baby, I'm not fooling.
Yes, if you recognize these sounds, they are obviously from Whole Lotta Love by Led Zeppelin. Let's find out if we can hear this song in Voodoo People. Let's just find Jimmy Page's solo. Stunning. Let's take one fragment from this solo. Just imagine the fantasy of Liam Howlett, who searched for all these strange sounds, downloaded them into his favorite sampler, cut them, combined them, processed them, rearranged them, and got completely new music. We will speed up this piece a little and raise the pitch level. In general, I think you understand what I'm driving at. And this, my friends, is just the beginning. It will get much more interesting. One would say that electronic dance music, not as positive as before, but still making you move, with lots of overloaded sounds, synthesizers, and guitars, was quite difficult to call rock. It is their answer to everyone. The government that killed the rave, the ravers themselves, divided into two camps, legal but not free, and underground but already quite local. It was their answer to sweet Eurodance, which then sounded from every corner and looked like the mainstream subgenre of electronic music. And ultimately, it was the answer to themselves that it was time to reach a new level. By that time, the speed of underground music was increasing more and more. The response to this trend, for example, was the song Poison. Where another band member, Maxim Reality, revealed his talent for the first time in the studio. Drum and bass, hardcore, jungle, techno, whatever definitions critics tried to give to this music, Prodigy themselves called it much more succinctly, electronic punk. They just did what they wanted to do, and it didn't matter what people called it. At first glance, it was the strangest album, but it instantly reached first place on the British album chart. And with the circulation of several 100,000, it was sold all over the globe, including the US. All this got complemented by excellent video clips increasingly appearing on MTV. Thus, thanks to this work, the Prodigy have enormously expanded their audience, winning the attention of fans of completely different music genres. From rock music, Prodigy took more than electric guitars. Of course, this was what worried them more than any success in the charts. The energy of live performances, incomparable with any other electronic band. Rage Against the Machine, Red Hot Chili Peppers, Biohazard, Suicidal Tendencies, all these guys had a huge influence on both Prodigy's music and the performance of this music at concerts. And I remind you that we are talking about an electronic band. In 1995, on the wave of success, the Prodigy went on a world tour for the first time. And then something happened that probably could not have affected the career of any other band in any way. And if we hadn't been talking about these guys, I wouldn't have focused on this, but Keith Flint, the band's dancer, who until then had nothing to do with studio work and only entertained the audience at concerts, decided to change his image. He cuts off his long hair, dyes his head in bright colors, and shaves it in a form resembling devil horns. Liam asks, "Oh God, Keith, what did you do?" "I like it," Flint said, and millions of new fans and the entire world press decided so too. I'm sure I won't exaggerate if I say that the image of Keith Flint will forever remain in memory as the main visual symbol of the Prodigy band. But of course, it wasn't just the new image. Their live shows began to attract even more attention from the audience, and even such rock magazines as Rolling Stone and Kerrang wrote about them. And on the other hand, the band began to blur the boundaries, but on the other, they got stuck somewhere in between. They were strangers both for fans of electronics and conservative fans for rock and metal music. All fans of loud and energetic music who could accept experiments were delighted with the band, but the respect of real subculture fans still had to be earned. And then the next single finally destroys all the barriers. Speaking about Prodigy music, I decided I couldn't sit at home and sort out samples, hence I came to my friend Vlad's studio. He is a wonderful, talented sound producer with whom we have made a lot of songs. From the first example, we learned that Liam Howlett got inspired by his favorite band, Nirvana, and it didn't change here either. He heard Foo Fighters and decided to do something just as interesting, beautiful, and assertive. Okay, first we'll take what? A great bass drum? Where will we get it from? We'll take it from the Dust Brothers project, but it's not just the Dust Brothers. These are actually the future Chemical Brothers. We have the bass drum, let's continue. For the next sample, we will again turn to the American alternative. take a piece of a 1993 song from the band The Breeders. We take this sound, this guitar here. And we can let's also add drums to all this. Creating the Fat of the Land album, Liam Howlett often resorted to one sample library from Zero G called Jungle Warfare. It was sold on CDs, and there were 3 volumes, and they used a lot of sounds from the first volume in this album. There are drums here, they sound like this. But the sample pack also took it from somewhere. But from where? First of all, it's from 10 City's song called Devotion. They, of course, also use samples from some covers from the 70s. A funk cover of the Doors song called Light My Fire. But we are still missing one sample. Trevor Horn, a wonderful man about whom I haven't yet told much and will have to change it. A legendary producer, actually very legendary. He participated in this recording too. How? Let's take the recording of the band Art of Noise. This beautiful avant-garde synth pop of the mid-80s. And let's borrow one small piece from it. We cut Hey from it, let's cut Hey. Oh my, Vlad gave me a beautiful sampler I could play with. Vlad prepared in advance and recreated the track. It's almost identical. Very close, of course, thanks to the efforts of both Jim Pavlov and other guys. For example, Canyon Hill. Honestly, the Russian community of the Prodigy is incredible. They did incredible things 10 years ago. Let's add the guitar here for authenticity. Let's add the guitar. When Keith Flint, already more confident in himself, heard this instrumental, he suggested adding his vocals there. What? Liam asked. Yes, let me remind you, before that, Keith Flint was a dancer. Music critics didn't perceive Keith and Leroy either as musicians or professional dancers, and Keith was more of an energy source for the crowd. But Liam agreed to this experiment. Keith Flint wrote this text about himself, and not many people know that this song is about him. Firestarter is not an arsonist, not a lighter fluid, not a lighter in the literal sense of the word. Firestarter is Keith Flint's role in this band, an irreplaceable person who charges a crowd of thousands. Even his name speaks for itself. The music video for this song took 2 attempts. The first one, for which they spent more than £100,000, did not satisfy the band at all. Hence, with the help of their friend and director of previous clips, Walter Stern, they quickly had to reshoot everything in an abandoned tunnel of the London Underground. They had only $20,000 left for this video. There was not enough money, even for color correction, which is why the clip was black and white. But the result? Without further ado, this is an iconic image of Keith Flint on a blood-curdling level. What is this song? Electronic dance music? Punk? Hip-hop? Metal? Techno? Big beat? In their purest form, it's none of these, but at the same moment, it's all at once. The next single was no less heavy and iconic, Breathe. Let's talk about it too. To tell the truth, it always reminded me of the music from Bond movies. And it kind of has its grounds. We'll take the original James Bond soundtrack from John Barry for the main sample. legendary band Thin Lizzy, in which Gary Moore, the legendary guitarist, played. Was Gary Moore in Thin Lizzy? Yes. We'll take the drums from Thin Lizzy. We cut it and get something like this. Then there's a verse where you also took everything from sample packs, right? Everything is recreated here very accurately. Wow. Wow. And then before the intro of the next instrument that we sampled, there are pipes. It is a band called Please. In fact, a very rare song. I hardly found it on YouTube. It's not even on, I don't even know such a band, Please. Oh, but did you hear such a funny sound? And now there will be a long and interesting story. I have never talked about the legends of the East Coast, Wu-Tang Clan, on this channel. If you have heard a few things about them and seen a few things about them, then of course you know that they have always been very, very keen on martial arts. Come from the Shaolin slump, and the al I'm from is coming through with enough gun. And in general, their entire debut album is woven from some quotes and films about martial arts that they have loved since childhood.
You must think first, right?
We will take these beautiful sabers from this piece of the film, used as the intro to the Wu-Tang Clan song. Damn, in my opinion, this is the perfect instrument. What would you call it? Fja! Is an instrument called fja. Sounds Norwegian. We'll call it this way. The success of the previous album, the fantastic energy of the live performances, Keith Flint, the new symbol of the band, like the reinterpreted reincarnation of Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols, explosive singles with incredibly stylish music videos, literally one step remained to reach their highest peaks. The previous music video was aired on TV only at night because it scared children, and the song was banned from all British radio stations because, according to many, it provoked fans to start real fires. I'm a fire starter. But, as we all know, everything forbidden arouses even more interest. Hence, all this only helped to promote the band. After another scandalous article about them in the newspaper, Liam thought they could give another reason to write about the band. They knew perfectly well that the song with the title phrase, "Smack My Bitch Up," would get banned everywhere again. Then they decided to shoot a music video that would get banned everywhere. A video for a song that, well, you get it. Well, now we'll try to recreate this song, of course. We'll start with the intro. The intro is from the song Funky Man by Kool and the Gang.
Listen here.
Is that you cut it? Yes, that's how it all sounds there. Next we have jazz. It is Randy Weston, a great jazz pianist who died not so long ago, perhaps a couple of years ago. From here we take the bass, and now we have this whole loop very meticulously cut. But there are two tracks. One of them sounds like this. The first one has an emphasis on the drums, and the second one on the bass. And together, it sounds like this. After the sample from Randy Weston, we get this interesting sound. That's how it sounds by itself, and this, dear friends, is a Prodigy sample of their own music. And it sounds already like this in the song Smack My Bitch Up. They raised the tone by half and edited it, so there are 3 bass sounds here. Yes, there are. The next sample is Lair, the Cold Cut Boys and their song Pieces. Beats and pieces, beats and pieces. They also used an African Makossa band called Afrique. And Liam Howlett, in turn, just took a sample from them, but what did he do with this sample? So we took this loop, this piece. Now we cut off this piece here. We make it shorter, that is, accelerate its pace, and at the same time, the pitch level changes. And we get this beautiful sound. I hear a familiar sound. And then here are the drums, not sampled. These are different drum machines. Well, now we'll move on to that very phrase. What did Liam Howlett want to say with this phrase? Nothing. He just took a sample from the work of another hip-hop band.
I'm ready, and now it's my turn to build, uplift, get swift, then drift.
That's right. This phrase is from the song Give the Drummer Some.
Switch up, change my pitch up, smack my bitch up like a pimp.
Ultramagnetic MCs is the name of this hip-hop band. In one of its songs, the lyrics went, change my pitch up, smack my bitch up, like a pimp. And Liam Howlett liked this funny phrase, and Vlad will now show us what Liam did with this recording. Initially, he had this one.
Switch up, change my pitch up, smack my bitch up like a...
And that's what we get after editing the tempo.
Change my pitch up, smack my bitch up.
Neither Keith Flint nor Maxim Reality. Yes, but someone from the MC's band. Cool Keith is his name. Do you even know his name? Yes, a little more volume. And what did Cool Keith think about when he heard himself in someone else's song? It's hard to tell, but I know that this song is listed in the album. That is, it's officially in the album. The official sample. It's cleared.
Change my pitch up, smack my bitch up. Change my pitch up, smack my bitch up. Change my pitch up, smack my bitch up.
Unlike one sample, which we'll talk about a little later, as a result, we have this sound. We have Give the Drummer Some.
Change my pitch.
We have drum sounds that we made ourselves.
Change my pitch up.
The sound from Crazy Man.
Change my pitch up. Smack.
And the sound from Randy Weston.
Change my pitch up.
Beautiful. But we have something else. That's how it sounds in the original. Let's speed it up a little bit. And 2 more beats are cut off from it. That's all. That sound is constantly in the song. We'll make it louder. This song is called Critical Beatdown, from the same Ultramagnetic band. The same album, by the way. And do you know what else is in this song? I Take Your Brain to Another Dimension.
Attention, I'll take your brain to another dimension.
Which Liam used in the song Out of Space. There is also another small sample, but it is crucial. It sounds like this. First we lower its pitch. And we stretch it up a little bit to fit into the rhythm, just like we did with the phrase smack my bitch up. During the first US tour, Liam discovered one great band called Rage Against the Machine. Let me say that Bulls on Parade is a big hit. What will we take from it? From it, we will take the legendary guitar with a wah pedal. That's how it sounded. We take one piece from here, higher pitch, slow down. And that's how it sounds now. A magical Indian woman should sing to it all. And if I'm not mistaken, this is also a sample. In fact, there's an interesting story here. An Indian vocalist, Sheila Chandra, sings in the first demo version of the song Smack My Bitch Up. Yes, but it so happened that Liam Howlett failed to clear the sample, that is, to buy the rights to use it, and he asked someone to sing, and he had to turn to a little-known vocalist at that time, whose name is Shaheen Badar. Wow, you have a talent for remembering names. And Shaheen sang pretty close to Sheila's style. In fact, it's just a great part, and many fans believe that it was thanks to the female vocals that this song became such a big hit. I think so, although Prodigy does not like it when people say so, but many people think so. But why not? Let's not forget about this music video, let's not forget about this phrase, and let's not forget about everything else, but this vocal really matters. However, many people think so, yes. Well, here they are, samples from this song. Thank you very much, Vlad, it was very cool. Thank you very much, Sasha, and we're moving on. The unforgettable album, Fat of the Land, was top in the charts of 22 countries, including the UK and the US. 10 million copies sold, many awards, a Grammy nomination, and getting into the Guinness Book of Records as the fastest-selling British album. An impressive world tour, and it would seem that after this, one could expect new heights. However, at this point, most of the band's biography almost ends. Indeed, if you read the literature and watch the video, you get the feeling that after 1998, the Prodigy got canonized. Everything that happened next no longer mattered in music history. Oh, these intense 90s. In part, this is true. It's not that the Prodigy didn't create anything else. We'll briefly return to what happened next. But what they achieved in the mid-90s, the influence they had and continue to have, was enough to gain the status of living legends by the beginning of the 2000s. In 1999, Leroy Thornhill, less and less noticeable over time, left Prodigy and began a solo career as a DJ, and the band, already performing less and less, decided to put their career on pause. Their songs and videos continued to sound from every corner, but they were tired of exhausting shows and scattered about their business. Liam took up his side projects and released various mixtapes, Maxim recorded a solo album, and Keith Flint found an outlet in motorsport, which he became seriously involved in for days to come. Prodigy returned in 2002 with a new mini-album and a single called Baby's Got a Temper. The first record in 5 years was controversially accepted by critics. However, it contained the fans' favorite song by Keith Flint. Next in 2004, the long-awaited big comeback, the album Always Outnumbered, Never Outgunned. It got off to a great start in the UK charts, but was still not nearly as successful as the previous Fat of the Land. In addition, Maxim Reality and Keith Flint did not take part in its creation, but you could hear, for example, the Gallagher brothers from Oasis. Much more successful was the explosive album Invaders Must Die. It was the answer to all the smartest ones who knew better than the Prodigy what they had to do. By the way, it had a lot of successful soundtracks. Next, 5 years later, we have The Day Is My Enemy, the most collaborative album in the band's history. And as they said then, the last one. However, the last one for today is no tourists. The revolution, the sensation that the Prodigy made in the 90s, in my opinion, cannot be compared with anything. In just 8 years, they have gone from party stars to world stadium legends, and they'll remain in this status forever, regardless of the success of new possible works. Each of them grew up on their own. Liam turned from a talented producer who worked wonders alone in his room into a role model for electronic musicians all over the globe. From a strange MC, Maxim became a serious frontman who revealed his voice and manner and found himself in solo works. But of course, Keith Flint deserves special attention. Contrary to popular belief that everything in this band was done by Liam Howlett, Flint, who released all the demons from the non-decrepit Harry Quiet Boy, turned into a symbol of the band. To say the least, a true symbol of an entire generation. But not everything is so carefree in the souls of such heroes. In an interview in 2017, he said, "I'm not saving money for anything, I don't leave anything for later, and I do everything today and now. When I'm done, I'll kill myself." And indeed, on March 4, 2019, Keith Flint was found hanged in his own house.
The Prodigy frontman Keith Flint has died at the age of 49.
Due to all the divorce proceedings and the numerous debts he had accumulated, Keith fell into a deep depression from which he could not get out. When he was just 49 years old, a man who has been giving energy and mood to millions of his fans for decades failed to cope with depression. A man who, from a quiet and modest introvert, turned into one of the brightest and most memorable symbols of the generation, both in the 90s and in the history of the modern music industry. However, I would like to end this sadness with his comment about his future demise. "I'm going to be buried with my ass sticking out of the ground so people can park a bike there. They'll stick a bike in there, and Firestarter will play out of my ass. You will come to your Aunt Agnes's grave with flowers and park your bike there with tears in your eyes, and when you pull out the bike, Smack My Bitch Up will play out of my ass." Whether you like Prodigy's music or not, I think it is one of the most iconic and influential projects of modern alternative music. Today, when we can easily imagine combinations of any genre, we no longer think that once it seemed impossible. They combined electronic dance music, rock, and hip-hop so organically and uniquely. It's unbelievable. Also, in August 2019, the band wrote on Instagram, "Back in the studio, making noise. Brand new Prodigy tunes are gonna roll. Boom!" With the hashtags "We Live Forever," "We Live for the Beats," and "Can't Stop Rock." I'm sure we'll hear new work from these legends. It will be incredibly cool and explosive, or it will just be a shadow of themselves without the participation of the band's main energy source. It doesn't matter. The main thing is, life goes on. Don't forget to subscribe to the Longplay channel to stay in the company of interesting facts and cozy stories about the heroes of the music industry. I hope it was interesting. All the best to you. Bye.